Hi, my name is Brenda Bansescu, and I'm a parent of a daughter that attended Camp Easter Sill in the mid-90s. Hope was, her name was Hope, and she was born on November 25th, 1984, and she was very medically fragile. She had a feeding tube and a trach. I also had the fortune that I worked for Saskabilities back in the early 90s, doing their fundraising and all the events that raise funds for camp. So camp is very near and dear to me. But I always talked about camp when I'd go and speak to people, but I'd never really sent my daughter Hope to camp, even though she was old enough. And Ken Campbell one day approached me, and he was the regional director for Saskatoon and in charge of camp. And he said I was being a bit of a hypocrite because I would never send Hope to camp. And I said, well, she's just so medically fragile. So he asked me if I would send her with a caregiver. And I said, well, I'll ask Hope's caregiver and see if she wants to go. And Sherry Allen, who was her caregiver, just jumped at the chance to attend camp with Hope. So the very first year that we went, it was in about 1995, and we just went for 4 days to see how it was. And, we had to pack everything under the sun, almost the kitchen sink, it seemed like. We had her diapers, her feeding supplies, her trach supplies, her clothes, and anything else that you could think of. But anyway, we made it. And first day at camp, I should back up and say, as a parent, I was really quite scared to send Hope to camp because I didn't even send my other daughter to a camp. So anyway, I decided that I would camp at the Manitou Regional Park, which I did. So we dropped Hope off at camp, and she just started smiling right away. And Dana, who was one of the counselors, came and met Sherry and Hope and myself and showed us where Hope would be staying. And it was in the pillbox because we needed running water and stuff for her trachs. So we had sort of Sherry and Hope had a separate room, and I just enjoyed it, but they were still assigned to a cabin to do all the activities. So I hightailed it back to the campground, and then I came back shortly, a little bit later, and I couldn't find Hope. I thought she'd be in the dining hall with the other kids, and I went in there, and she wasn't in there. And then I went to the pillbox to see if she was in a room meeting, and she wasn't. So then I went to the chalet and asked where Hope's cabin was, and they said, oh, they're out front there having a bit of a picnic. And I go there, and Hope is laying on the floor or on the blanket under the tree, and her feeding bag was hanging from the tree. So I'd never done this before, and I just about started crying because it was just so exciting. And Hope was just kicking her feet, and she had the biggest grin. So I knew then that she would have a really good time at camp, and she did. Every time I would go to camp, which I went quite often just to check up on her, and she'd have the biggest smile. And I'm pretty sure she went to sleep with that smile on her face, and then came home or woke up with the same smile, and it was there all day. She did all kinds of normal activities that she wouldn't experience otherwise. So things like going on a boat, going on the wagon into town for ice cream. She went on the trampoline that they had there, the wheelchair swing, horseback riding, and pretty much every activity that a normal child would do at camp. And we had the best 4 days, even me visiting, even though I wasn't staying at camp. So that was the very first year. And then every year after, she went to camp with Sherry. Sherry would even, when she was a teacher, she would come home from Edmonton and go to camp with Hope in the summer. So Hope went till she was about 16 years old, and then she just became, it was just too much for her because her health had deteriorated. So camp is very near and dear to our family. I've been fortunate enough to attend all the camp days in the last 5 or 6 years since I've been on the board of directors with Sask Abilities. And it is just a very, it's so great to see all the kids. They always have a smile on their face, and they continue to do what I call, normal activities that they might not get to experience at home. So I encourage everyone to, at some point, if you've never been to Camp Easter Sail, to take a drive in the summer out to Manitou Beach and check it out, because it truly is a magical kingdom. And the counselors are absolutely wonderful. They're just big kids at heart, and they take great care of the kids and do everything to keep the kids happy at camp.